Then we had nobody sign up for public comment ahead of the meeting. Is anybody that's out there in the gallery wishing to make a public comment to the Transportation Infrastructure Committee? All right, seeing none. So I'm going to go through a proposed consent agenda. Right now, I've got everything on the consent agenda except for committee item 1, RS 2025-1351. Item 4, BL 2025-897. Item 5, BL 2025-906. Item 7, BL 2025-912. And that is all I've got on a proposed consent calendar. Before I get to reading the captions, any other items need to come off. I see Councilmember Evan Siegel as usual.
Sorry to hear it. I may have heard it backwards. I wanted to pull items 5 and 7, but you mentioned 5 and 7. Were you reading the ones that were not on consent or the ones that are on consent?
I read the items that were not on the proposed consent agenda. So, okay. Councilmember Benedict, let me find you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to pull number 3.
All right, number 3 is going to be removed from consent, and we all hear that. Any other stuff need to come off for questions, comments, any of that? All right, seeing none, so I'm going to read the captions of our consent agenda items, and then if someone would please move and second that. So first, we've got committee item 2. This is RS 2025-1370 by Johnston, Porterfield, Gamble, and Parker. This is a resolution authorizing the Director of Public Property or his designee to exercise an option agreement for the purchase of a flood-prone property located at 4800 Blackman Court for Metro Water Services. Next, we have committee item 6. This is BL 2025-907 by Horton, an ordinance to amend section 15.64.170 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding development of athletic fields within floodways. Next, we have committee item 8. This is BL 2025-913 by Parker and Gamble, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to acquire permanent and temporary easements through negotiation, condemnation, and acceptance for the Prince Avenue Stormwater Improvement Project for 9 properties located on Prince Avenue and Trinity Lane. Next, we have committee item 9. This is BL 2025-914 by Bradford, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public utility easement rights for the specific area of property located at 1431 Volte Boulevard. Next is committee item 10. This is BL 2025-915 by Cash, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public stormwater easement rights for property located at 3001 Belmont Boulevard, also known as Christ the King Catholic Church. Next, we have committee item 11. This is BL 2025-916 by Benton, Gamble, Parker, and Ellis. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing stormwater line and drainage easements and to accept new stormwater line and drainage easements for property located at 2491 Murfreesboro Pike, also known as MNPD Southeast Precinct. Next, we have committee item 12. This is BL 2025-917 by Horton, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public water main, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements, and to accept new fire hydrant assemblies and easements for property located at 4500 Harding Pike, also known as Belle Meade Plaza. Next, we have committee item 13. This is BL 2025-918 by Evans, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public water and sanitary sewer main, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for properties located at 4021 Mills Road and at 4 properties offsite of the project location on Old Hickory Boulevard, Sells Drive, and Central Pike, also known as Avid Hotel Revision 1. Next, we have committee item 14. This is BL 2025-919 by Horton, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public water and sanitary sewer main, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, relocation of fire hydrant assembly, replacement of sanitary sewer manhole, and associated easements for property located at 813 Watts Lane, also known as 813 to 1230 Watts SP. Next, we have committee item 15. This is BL 2025-920 by Gamble and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public water and sanitary sewer main, fire hydrant assembly, sanitary sewer manhole, and easements for property located at 6532 Edinburgh Drive in Williamson County. Next, we have committee item 16. This is BL 2025-921 by Kimbrough, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main and easement and to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 3606 Fairview Drive, also known as Fairview Meadows. Next, we have committee item 17. This is BL 2025-922 by Parker and Gamble, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and easement for property located at 799C Fairwin Avenue. Next, we have committee item 18. This is BL 2025-923. This is an ordinance. This is by Harrell, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for two properties located at 4057 4057 Maxwell Road and Maxwell Road unnumbered, also known as Martin's Glen. Lastly, we have committee item 19. This is BL 2025-924 by Bradford, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public water main, fire hydrant assembly, and associated easements for three properties located at 1 Terminal Drive, Murfreesboro Pike unnumbered, and 701 Donaldson Pike, also known as BNATARI 3.1. All right, having heard the proposed consent agenda, do any items need to come off for questions, comments, discussions, anything? Not seeing any, so could we get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
All right, do we have any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, let's go to a vote on the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? So we recommend approval of the consent agenda, items 7 in favor, 0 against, 7-0. All right. I read the... All right, so we'll start with committee item 1. This is resolution 2025-1351, a resolution amending subsection 13.32.165.d.1 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to add language regarding compliance with guidelines to the sidewalk cafe dining rules and regulations. In accordance with our staff analysis, this needs to be withdrawn and will be refiled as an ordinance. So we don't need to vote on I'm going to withdraw it. Okay. Next, we have committee item 3. This is RS 2025-1371, a resolution approving Amendment 1 to an agreement between, and this is by Porterfield, Parker, and Gadd. This is a resolution approving Amendment 1 to an agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and the City of Belmead to permit Metro to bill and collect Belmead's residential and commercial stormwater user fee. Could we get a motion on this item, please? All right, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. I did have a question about this that I asked Metro Water in the back of the room, which basically was, I'll give the question and answer now, is this anything new in the relationship with Belmead? It is not. It's just basically an accounting thing, as you may know, for us being chair. So anyway, I've got my question answered, so I'm ready to move.
Well, thank you for sharing that info with the group and with the public that's watching. Any further discussion on this one? All right, seeing none, so we've got a motion. Let's go to a vote. All those in favor of RS 2025-1371, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 7 in favor, 0 against. All right, next we have committee item 4. This is BL 2025-897 by Druffel and Allen, an ordinance amending sections 15.64.010, 15.64.130, and 15.64.131 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to the residential infill regulation of artificial turf, multifamily structures, infill tree credits, and development plan submission requirements, and requiring commensurate updates to the stormwater management manual. Could we get a motion on this item? All right, properly moved and seconded. Let's see, the lead sponsor, Druffel, is not present. Councilmember Allen, would you like to be recognized? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to, I think it's already been moved to approval. I'd like to move the amendment.
All right, amendment's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, explanation, questions on the amendment?
So the amendment just changes we had taken out the definition for residential, but there was another definition for non-residential that said it's anything that's not residential. So now we're taking that one out as well. Otherwise, it's the same as the amendment that was offered last week. So I would ask for approval.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on the amendment? All right, seeing none, let's take a vote on the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? So we recommend approval of the amendment, 7 in favor, 0 against. Would someone like to move the...
Move the bill as amended with a brief comment.
All right, moved as amended, properly seconded. We'll go back to Councilmember Allen for a comment.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, basically what this does is ask the water department continue make updates to the stormwater manual to deal with infill. It includes improvements that are not just structure, so that it would improve pool decks and paving and things like that has sometimes kind of slipped under the radar. And it also increases the incentive for tree credits, which is really important. And there's also a request to formalize requirements for artificial turf. So those are kind of the three main things. And that will, I think, involve further follow-up with the Metro Stormwater people. So this is good that we're passing the bill, but we're not done. It will require continued work. So ask for approval.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that explanation, and to you and all the other council members and stormwater folks who have been working on this diligently for several weeks now. So any further question, comment, discussion on this? All right, seeing none. So we've got a motion to make a recommendation on the bill as amended. So we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? Councilmember Ellis, do you wish to be counted as a vote on BL 2025-897? Or yes? Thank you. So we got 8 in favor, recommend approval as amended, 8 in favor, 0 against. All right, next we have committee item 5. This is BL 2025-906 by Parker, Porterfield, and Hill, an ordinance amending certain sections and subsections of chapters 2.62, 12.56, 13.02, 13.08, 13.20, and 13.32 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to allow the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure, NDOT, to increase its permit and administrative fees over time as necessary. Do I need another member to make the motion, or can I make the motion? All right, I'll move approval, and it's been seconded. Thank you. So this, I even absent the substitute, which is primarily housekeeping, I did want to pull this just to highlight the really extensive fee study that is attached to this legislation. I would recommend everybody at least browse through that. And as I'm going to ask someone from NDOT to come up and answer just a couple of quick questions. But it's my understanding that this doesn't touch every single thing that's in that document. It touches specific things and kind of gives NDOT the ability to increase those fees with inflation, tying it to the CPI and whatnot. So I wanted to ask Mr. Purvis, does this legislation include the resident parking permit program fees? If you could please introduce yourself and recognize.
Thank you, Chair. Matt Purvis, I'm the Council Liaison for the Department of Transportation, Multimodal Infrastructure. Answer your question, no. So basically, we have multiple different categories of fees and permit costs that we have. A lot of them either fall under the jurisdiction of the Transportation Licensing Commission or the Traffic and Parking Commission. There are some in the middle which are mostly right-of-way, excavation, obstruction, special event permits, and to developmental fees like abandonments that fall just to the department broadly. And that is what this bill targets, are those fees, giving the department the right to change those fees as we need to, according to the fee study, and in the future, according to the CPI.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's all I had. So, Councilmember Horton, do you have a question?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. And thank you for NDOT for being here today to ask some questions. I appreciate the fee study being attached to it. It's very lengthy. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to go through it in detail. So far, I did have some questions on right-of-way temporary closures, permits, and fees, whether it makes sense to, and tell me if my interpretation is incorrect, but to have a flat fee for any right-of-way or street closure in the city. For example, it might make sense for Broadway to have a big closure fee. A different thing if it's, say, Tennessee Avenue in the Nations, where we're doing like a mom's parade or something like that, where those high fee costs could be prohibitive for us doing neighborhood or community events in a way that large organizations might be better positioned to absorb. So is my interpretation correct that we're charging a flat fee schedule for any right-of-way closure in the city?
Oh, my apologies, sir. You're on.
Correct. And that is mostly because the fee itself specifically, and all of the fees, it's not a matter of the location, it's a matter of actually supporting those closures with our staff and our salary. That's the majority of the cost of the fee. When you have closures or obstructions and things like that downtown where there's more to it, whether it's special events or whatever, there are normally other things that have to be taken care of with those closures that somewhere out in the nations wouldn't. Whereas, for a special event, often you have to have security officers or MMPD involvement or whatever else. And those obviously start to rack up for your larger events. Whereas if you were just closing Tennessee Avenue, you would pay this flat fee to make sure that our inspectors can be paid to make sure and check and see that everything is done appropriately and safely. But other than that, it wouldn't be nearly the overhead that some of the more intensive locations are. So it kind of balances out in that way.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, I would like time to review this in more detail and perhaps some additional discussions with NDOT. I don't know if anybody else in the committee has any questions on this before. I'll stop here and let some of our other council members.
We've got 2 members in the queue right now. Councilmember Coopin, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Purvis, for being here and for the hard work on this. Just a couple questions. First of all, when was the last time we updated fees, like the fee structure as a metro government in this vein?
It's 2003.
2003, okay, great. And then I know you all mentioned engagement last February. What kind of engagement did you all do with stakeholders and the public?
We did a number of meetings with larger organizations, whether it was NAOP or other kind of industry groups. I think we did 4 or 5 meetings with separate groups of contractors and builders and folks that are the ones paying these fees mostly. And as we did that engagement, obviously no one's happy to pay more, but they understood the reason that we're currently subsidizing them on a high level to they get to close and we have to pay our folks and they're not paying nearly what it cost us to pay our folks. And so they understood. And at the time we got the go ahead from all of those meetings to move forward with that from the industry itself.
Perfect, thank you. And then I share my colleagues' appreciation for the depth of the fee study, something that I've glanced through, but also would love time to review. So I guess my question would be, and I'll let the rest of the queue go, but if there were to be a request for 1 meeting deferral, does that mess up your timeline, or does that mess anything up, or is there kind of room to do that, to have some more depth of research?
We would obviously have to change we might have to change the start date of this year's changes, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. I would add the caveat that if we have the extra 2 weeks or however long it is, we would love to bring whoever's interested in to discuss more of this.
Great, that's all I've got, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans Siegel.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the questions of many that I have looking at this, I think overall, we are due for a reset on our fees and how we think about the cost of things. And so I really appreciate the department's work on this. One thing that I am a big proponent of is residential block parties. And I think we should make those much easier to do, not harder to do. I think you look at, like, if a city like Chicago can do free residential block parties for every block in Chicago, cities support it for free, like, why can't we? Certainly their curb is more expensive than ours. But when I looked at this, like, I saw that we carved out residential block party for the current fee, but then I didn't see in like the fee study, are we going to maintain the residential block party program at the reduced rate, or are we looking at that will also just be the cost of any block?
Mr. Purvis.
So my understanding, obviously the fee study was, it is ultimately a suggestion. What this legislation does is give our director and our department the right to change it as we need according to the fee study suggests, over the next 3 years, and then going from there, adjusting per CPI and inflation. So basically, to answer your question, the fee study didn't consider every single thing about our program specifically like that. In the event of actually charging for block party permits, I think a lot of this was about setting the rule rather than the exception. And I think we're more than open and happy to explore conversations about how to help neighborhoods do these sort of things at a lower cost than, whatever developer is coming in to close the block for whatever reason. So we're absolutely open to continuing our programs and expanding them to benefit the community.
Okay. Just a follow-up, Chair.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have some clarity on that before we implement this. I know for many neighborhoods, like Halloween is a really important block party that many neighborhoods take advantage of this, but certainly it can be used all year round. But I just want to make sure that we don't adopt this and then come like end of September, realize that somehow residential block parties didn't get included and everybody's Halloween plans are messed up, because that would certainly be a shame.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Cash. I do want to just note that we have 2 departmental updates that we're expecting to hear at the tail end of this meeting. So we're still doing okay on time. We've got about 38 minutes left on the calendar, but I just want us to be cognizant of that fact. So Councilmember Cash.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to follow up on the like block party, which I know several of my neighborhoods are big on. When and do want to make it as easy on them as possible. When a neighborhood or neighborhood association or neighborhood group gets a permit to close a block, to have a block party, is the department providing anything, or is the department providing like barriers or cones or anything, or the neighborhood, like what I guess, other than going through the paperwork and approving it, what is the department doing to need to collect money, I guess? I'm asking.
If you'd please introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, my name is Brad Freeze. I work for Nashville DOT. That's a great question, Councilmember. So we are actually excited that we are going to be announcing something this week related to open streets and block parties. We do provide resources. We have purchased resources that can be used by the neighbors and be checked out in those cases. So yes, we are going to be releasing new guidance for this program, for the Open Streets program, as it relates to upcoming Halloween events and others. So yes, we are addressing that with a new announcement on Thursday.
So if I may, just to be clear, so like, I feel like in the past that like the neighborhood, I know at least one neighborhood association of mine has had to pay for those physical things to block the street off. And you're saying that now that's, so in other words, they were paying a cost for the closure, and then also paying for physical things which was actually more expensive. But now there's going to be a cost reduction because you all are going to have some physical tools to help with that. Is that correct? Is that what I'm
correct. Our plan is to lower the bar as low as possible for these events so we can have more of them. And we will have more information on Thursday that we put out.
Thank you.
And if I could, I was going to add also that in the fee study, but also in our structure that we're targeting for the next 3 years and beyond, there is a delineation, and this partially goes back to Councilmember Horton's question. There is a delineation between high impact versus low impact closures. So those are actually 2 separate price points. And I think that's not the case now, but it will be the case moving forward with following this fee study, is having those designations attached to closures.
Thank you much. Okay, Councilmember Benedict, I'm reminded that I have a substitute that still needs to be put on, but I'll go to Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. Really quick. So just for Halloween is very popular. I just want to understand, if there were 500 Halloween parties across the city, would we have enough supplies to supply those folks when they throw the parties? Is there a limit there that we're going to say, oh, we're done?
Mr. Previs.
My understanding is there will be a physical limit that we don't have as many items and materials to support that. But obviously, if we can match the demand with supply, we'll absolutely strive to do that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so we will actually have suggestions for those neighborhoods for other resources and materials to use as well in those situations. But yes, we will be providing as much as we can. There is limits to how much we can at this time, and we're going to try to grow that program incrementally based on what the demand is. But yeah, you're right. Halloween is a big pull for those events. So we actually have a standard traffic control plan for cities, so they won't have to develop their own traffic control plans. So we can share what resources will be needed for that, and some of them won't require resources from the DOT as well. But yes, we are going to be providing guidance on that and trying to grow the program incrementally as we go along.
Thank you all. So I'm going to go ahead and move the substitute that's in the packet. Could we get a second on that? All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. And as I said, this is primarily a housekeeping, tidying substitute. Does anybody have any questions, comments about the substitute specifically? Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was a little nervous about the 3% or CPI, whichever was higher, because it seemed like we could be accused of sort of beginning to get above inflation for no acknowledged reason. So I appreciate the fact that this substitute seems to at least put an end to that. So in 2028, we'll come back and revisit that. So I think given that endpoint that's being added, I'm okay. I mean, I'm sure the difference isn't going to be that great, and it won't accumulate that much over a specified number of years. So I appreciate the amendment.
Thank you. Any other questions on the substitute? All right, let's go to a vote on the substitute. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, so that's 8 in favor of the substitute. You said 9? Okay. All right, and can we get a motion on the bill as substituted? Seeing Councilmember Horton in the queue.
Thank you,
You're recognized, yes.
Chair. I would like to move for a one meeting deferral, please.
All right, got a 1 meeting deferral, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on a 1 meeting deferral? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote on deferring the legislation as substituted. 1 meeting, recommending a 1 meeting deferral. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Anyone not voting? All right, so recommend a 1 meeting deferral. 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Yes, Councilmember Allen.
Does that make it an automatic deferral, and will we not be able to put the substitute on?
Yeah, that's correct. We'll need another substitute for the next time.
I like this one. Bring it back.
Okay. We might have to tweak some dates, they said. We'll get there. Okay, thank you all. Next, we had committee item 7. This is BL 2025-912 by Porterfield and Parker. This is an ordinance approving a pilot project between Vanderbilt University and the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Department of Water and Sewerage Services for the provision of early warning detection for water management systems. Can we get a motion on this, please? Properly moved and seconded. I pulled this off just because I had gotten some questions about this, and if we could just get a brief explanation from someone from Water about what this project is going to be seeking to accomplish, the scope of it, et cetera. Just a little bit of background context would be very much appreciated. You're recognized. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mary Peoples, Metro Water Services Council Liaison. I'm going to have Mr. Walter Ashford from Metro Water Services, Route Services, to address your questions.
Thank you.
Can you ask the question again?
Well, if you could just tell us a little bit about what the scope of this program is, how it works, what it seeks to accomplish. It seemed like some kind of new and emerging technology might being applied here to monitor the water system.
So we have a lot of data that we take in, pressure data, flow data, some work order data. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at how AI can kind of look through this data to provide kind of an early warning system for anomalies in the system. So valves that aren't supposed to be open or closed, or breaks or leaks.
So this is not like new physical infrastructure that would be placed throughout the system. It's more using the data that you're already collecting and analyzing that with this new tool.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
cool. Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Any further questions, comments on this? All right, seeing none, we will go to a vote. All those who want to recommend approval of BL 2025-912, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? Are we still at 9? Thank you. Recommend approval 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. All right, I believe we have now dispensed with all of the regular agenda items, so we'll get to, we've got a couple of updates. We've got an update on the library garage situation, which was requested at our last meeting, and then we've got some context and information about the updated stormwater master plan that you got in your inboxes, I think, Thursday. I just wanted to give the department an opportunity to tell us about what's in that document, where that document is, how we're going to use it, and how council members might approach that very large document to learn some important information. So we'll go first. If we could ask Mr. Palco from Stormwater to come up and just, as I said, just share a little bit of context, if you would, please, about the update to the Stormwater Master Plan. So you are recognized, sir. If you'd please introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you. I'm Tom Palco, Metro Stormwater, Metro Water Services. So the first time we did a stormwater inventory was 30 years ago. So there's a lot happened in Nashville in the last 30 years, in case you hadn't noticed. So the previous master plan we did, or the inventory we did, was for the main idea of trying to figure out if we had a spill to make sure we knew where the stormwater would go and where it would get into the rivers. So that was kind of the main thing we did back in the, 30 years ago. But now we're using it for much more detail than that. When the crews go out, we actually have survey crews going to the sites and walking on the dirt, looking at the pipes. And they're helping us with just maintenance items. If you'll see, some of the maps show there's a lot of maintenance that we've done in East Nashville because that's where our crews were, and they're finding stopped-up pipes, stopped-up inlets that were working zero. And so we're doing that to help us get, this basic maintenance done. But then they're also taking these pipe systems and saying, okay, well, how much water, what kind of storm can this system really take? And where do we got really, really pinch points, and where do we need to make improvements? So they're helping us develop plans for our long-term master planning process. So right now, we're about a third of the way done. We started in the areas of town that had a lot of growth, a lot of issues, a lot of requests for service. East Nashville was one. Then a couple, 2024, June 3rd, we had a big rain. We're on that. And so, those are the kind of things we're looking at. So we are using this master plan to update the inventory in GIS so people know where stuff is or where stuff should be. We're using it to identify projects that we can put together and go build. And so, if you think we don't know about an issue you have in your district, let us know, and we'll make sure that we know about it. So when we do get to that neighborhood to say, hey, let's do a project here, let's do this project, we can add those things on and make sure we cover everything we need to cover. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. And yeah, I just want to kind of underscore what a significant undertaking this, the inventorying piece of the system specifically, the level of detail that we're getting about the system and its condition is really quite impressive. So I strongly encourage everybody to check that document out if you haven't already. Are there any questions from committee members for Mr. Palco? I see Councilmember Ellis, you are recognized.
Happy to see you here.
Good seeing you again.
How are you all going to be approaching the neighborhoods that were built before the current standards are in place?
Yeah, that's pretty much where we are. I mean, if you build a subdivision after 1979 or 1982, the standards are just totally different. There's typically curb and gutter and inlets that meet a design standard of a 10-year storm. So we're not really doing much in those areas because it works for a reasonable design period. So we're in the neighborhoods. We're in the existing neighborhoods. And so our trick is to figure out how to break these projects up into doable projects where they're not, a gazillion-dollar projects, but ones that we can fit into our 6-year capital plan. And as you know, our 6-year capital plan, we try to spread projects throughout the county in every district every year and keep building them as we go into the future. So we do, and when we get to the point of identifying a project that we think we're ready to get full design on, our next step would be to have a community meeting and bring the folks in and make sure that we've captured everything that needs to be captured.
Yes, you're recognized.
Just one more question. Has the mayor's office given you all any preference to the districts that you should target, or you're just...
At this point, we're gathering information, we're coming up with projects, and we are fitting them into our 6-year capital plan as we have been doing previous to this. So we've not been given any specific direction on that. Again, my job is to spend my entire capital budget every year on stormwater projects out in the field, because if I don't spend that money, then somebody's left unanswered. So we do a very good job of spending all our capital funds. If we get more capital funds, we'll spend those as well.
Got it. Just one last question. From the recommendations that you all give and the changes that need to be made, will we have to then go in, like if we want one of those projects done, will we need to go in and put it in as a CIB, or how will we?
We again, everything we do is funded through our stormwater user fee that every piece of property that has impervious surface pays into. So we have a set aside of money every year for those projects, and we just put them in our capital budget, and there we go. So again, it doesn't need to be extra put on there because, again, they're just part of our normal business, part of our normal operating expenses and normal capital expenses.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions? Okay, Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Director. Hi.
Hi there.
I'm trying to remember, I was Googling, I forget how much rain we had in Inglewood and East Nashville that time on June 4th last year. I know it was 3 inches in like 45 minutes. I think it was something crazy.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming out and recognizing that, you know, there was basically not much had been done in that area for probably a decade or more. So you've really done a great job getting out there and improving that. We still have a long way to go, as you know. I guess if we wanted to retrofit this whole city with stormwater, would the stormwater capacity fee cover that to get that done in 10 years?
So we would certainly have to increase that because, again, we've been doing projects that just maybe $10 or $15 million a year, and we know that that's not going to get the needs done. So at this point, we've got some rough estimates, which I don't have in front of me yet, on what we think we need from a countywide basis. And if we say we're going to do that in 100 years' time, how much money we would need every year. So as part of this process is to kind of get that big number and then back down to what we think the traffic would bear and what we could actually do, what we could actually spend, and what makes sense. So there'll be more of that conversation as we finish the master plan, which is 2028. We should be done with the entire county.
I'd love to see something in the CIB so we could fund, so we could bond out some of these repairs so we can get up to speed more quickly, because as we talk about infrastructure, we need to make sure that we have the big city pants on as we retrofit our city for all the growth that we have here, since this stuff wasn't taken into consideration when our city was built.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Palco? All right. Well, sir, thank you very much for joining us here today and for sending us that latest update to the Stormwater Master Plan. Okay, so at the last meeting, we had a request from a committee member to get an update on the library garage situation from Metro Legal, and it looks like there's some folks from Metro Legal here. Councilmember, do you want to restate what the request was, or do we feel good just jumping into it with the administration? You're recognized.
I'm at a little bit of an advantage because traffic and parking just came out of an hour-long executive meeting on this. So I'm trying to phrase the question in a way that is not clouded by what I've just heard. But the question was generally just an update on where we are on the downtown parking garage and in our investigation, and I suppose recovery is the right word for what we're doing, efforts related to that.
Thank you. So we'll go over to the administration table. If you could please introduce yourself before you begin speaking.
Hi, I'm Tom Cross, Metro Legal Department. And Councilmember Evans Segal had to sit through a much longer version of this, and I'll try to narrow it down. Metro has property insurance, and our carrier is Travelers, and they're in the midst of an investigation about the causes of the fire and who else might potentially be responsible for it. So we put them on notice. We've gotten certificates of insurance from others who might have an interest here, including the Downtown Partnership and at least one of the subcontractors who's involved in operating the garage. It's going to take a while for the dust to settle on this because Travelers, at least initially, was a little bit concerned about putting people in the garage to look at the specific area where the fire broke out. I will note that we think we're probably underinsured on this particular property, and so there's liable to be a scramble for available resources from our insurance policy and those of others who are involved here. So short version is we're in the midst of an investigation at the moment.
Councilmember Benedict.
Struggling there on this end with my mic. That last comment led me to think, how often do we review the insurance level of Metro property?
We have a policy that covers all the Metro properties and also the ones that belong to the Sports Authority. And we rely on the departments to give us the values, and the insurance company itself will do a review if they think we're significantly off. This one appears that we're off, and we didn't get a check. So we're going to look at our processes too, and inside our department, to see if we need to have somebody do an audit periodically for the information that's provided to us from the department that we provide to the insurance company.
Thank you. So on this particular case, and maybe you can't tell me yet, but does it look, so would would this be up to the library to have reported that value, or is that the user?
It's actually, this one, the garage is on the NDOT side, and library is the library.
That's right. Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, I've got a lot of questions about this, but I'm going to hold them for now because I think there's a lot to be revealed that will answer a lot of my questions. But there's just, I've just got a lot to say, maybe more so than a lot to ask. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. I had Councilmember Cooper in the queue. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Cross, for being here and discussing this. Obviously happened in my district, very, very upsetting. Lots of folks that are impacted and displaced. I'm curious, and again, some of these questions may be just a plant for post-investigation if we can't talk about it now, but there's obviously the structural damages, but there's also the operational damages, losing the library for a period of time. They lost events. Our unhoused neighbors who rely on that as a regular resource in downtown have had to go elsewhere. So with an insurance claim like this, would there be compensation for the loss of use of resource, or is it just a structural compensation?
It's just the damage to the facility, not loss of use or business interruption.
Okay, thank you. And then I just echo my colleagues' questions about being underinsured. So we're relying on departments to provide a value. Is there a check and balance? I know you mentioned that maybe we'd be looking at process. Is there a check and balance to that currently, or the department provides the value and then we go off of that?
We go off of what the department provides. Now, we ought to do a reasonable gut check on numbers that are provided. And again, it looks like we need to adjust our processes to make sure that if we need somebody to audit periodically, that we're getting that done.
Okay, thank you. And then I've never been part of these before. So what's an expected timeline? Obviously, we can't say for sure, but for something like this, are we talking months, years? Like how long does a process like this take to play out?
If you're just talking about the insurance part of it, it often goes relatively quickly, and particularly where, again, unfortunately, it looks like we're underinsured. If the insurance company reaches the conclusion that the cost of repair or replacement is going to significantly exceed what their exposure is, they're liable to start talking to us about just issuing a check and letting us decide what to do.
And at that point, would Metro be on the hook, I guess, for the rest of it?
Well, again, there are other businesses that could be on the hook for part of it, or their insurance as well.
Got it.
And we're going to be pursuing Metro's interests.
Sure. And so and then once the insurance piece wraps up, I imagine we'll get an update as far as what was decided and who was liable and things like that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I've got. Appreciate it.
Not seeing any other members seeking to have questions, but I did have one. So you said there were some challenges with travelers accessing the site. Have they resolved those challenges?
I think they have. And NDOT can jump in and clarify if I'm mistaken here, but I learned in the meeting at Traffic and Parking a little while ago that I think the perception is it's safe enough for them to do that part of the investigation at this point.
So they do feel the investigation is proceeding?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not stuck.
Great. All right. Any other questions on this subject? Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized. I'm turning you off. You don't have to keep using the plug.
I know, but I unplug it just hot mic. Is there any recourse in regards to the library being closed? And we're still paying, operationally, we're still paying for people. Like, and this has had an impact on our operations of the library. So I guess, is that being looked at all?
Again, it appears that there are others who might be at least partially responsible for the fire or the severity of the fire. And we would look to them for things like that. There may not be adequate insurance coverage or assets among those entities either. But yes, we will look to try to cover all or as much of Metro's loss as we possibly can, including that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I have Councilmember Evans Siegel.
Thanks, Councilmember, for that question. It made me realize a question that I did not ask earlier. We may not have the right folks here to answer this question, but have we had to lay off or furlough any library employees? Or are we able to keep them working? I don't know how many are hourly versus full-time at that branch, but is there anybody not working right now who would have been working but for this?
I don't know the answer to that question, and possibly Mr. Rosenberg? No. I kind of doubt they're here tonight. But.
Yeah, we didn't ask libraries to be here.
I don't think we have anything. I just didn't know if we happen to know. I'll reach out and ask that question.
All right, thank you. Any other members have questions, comments on this? I just want to thank y'all for pursuing Metro's interest in this matter. You know, this particular asset is something that I think a lot of us spend time pointing our constituents to and saying, go use this thing because it's one of the, it's kind of the public option for parking downtown. So I know folks are missing both it and the library right now, and appreciate y'all working to figure out how to move ahead here. So, okay, thanks for joining us. Any other updates from committee members before we close out here? All right, seeing none, I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you. I mean, just imagine, it's kind of like the